Okay, my friends, in this video, we're going to get a little real. So I want you to strap in. This is going to be a fun conversation. The question that we are addressing today is, can you really be successful with self-publishing? And more specifically, can you really be successful self-publishing memoir? And I've gotten this question by a few clients who were kind of on the fence. Should they go traditional? Should they go self-publishing? And as we've talked in previous videos and posts, self-publishing may be an easier, more feasible path for most memoirists. Traditional publishing might be a higher mountain to climb than if you were a household name, a famous person, or you were writing in another genre. So self-publishing feels like the better option, but it is a question that many writers, yet unpublished writers ask. This question also was brought up in another group that I'm in, another memoir writing group. Recently, this woman posted, I'm writing my memoir and I'm going to self-publish, but I'm wondering, how many of you actually read self-published memoirs? And I'm sure I didn't see all of the comments, but most of them, pretty much everyone that I saw was, yeah, I only really read traditionally published memoirs. And I was just sort of heartbroken. I don't think that means you can't be successful just because most people read traditional books. Here's the thing. Most people are still reading hard copy. Most people are still going to bookstores. Most people are still hearing about, all of the buzz around the big names and waiting in line, metaphorically, to buy those books. So just because that's most of what you read doesn't mean that's all of what you read. But I want to address this because it means something, right? If you aren't going to have anyone read your book, what's the point of writing it? Maybe you don't care about that. And I think it's a super noble position when I hear people say, if I can only change one life, then I've done my job and this has been well worth it. And I absolutely agree with you, but wouldn't it be nice if you could reach more than one person, right? Wouldn't it be nice if this could go the distance? What does that mean for a self-published unknown memoirist? I'm going to tell you ladies what, that's the majority of my clients. The majority of my clients are women who are writing their memoir and are not famous. I mean, I haven't yet worked with one famous person. Maybe someday, right? I can build up to that. But I really enjoy supporting women in this role and supporting memoirists who just have this urgent, burning story to share, and they kind of don't care if 1 million people read it or if it's only 100 or if it's 1,000. The number doesn't necessarily care. The act of writing their story is cathartic. It's healing. They're giving back. They're giving something of themselves. It's humbling. It's all sorts of things. It's all worth the journey. But wouldn't it be nice if you could give more to more people, right? So the answer, can you really be successful as a self-published memoirist, is yes. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of some success stories. So, the self-publishing world has changed over the years, and this definition of success is different for each person. But I find that when a self-published memoirist is able to say they've sold, a good couple thousand copies, I think that's pretty successful. I don't know what success is defined for you, but for me, I would be ecstatic if one of my clients came back and said, I just sold 1,000 copies on Amazon. I would be like, okay, we're having a party for you. So Natalie Brenner wrote The Undeserved Life, and she shared in a really wonderful blog post, and I'll share the link. But she kind of talked about her journey. She basically had 0 subscribers, hardly any followers, and she wanted to get this book out there and do the thing, right? She's an unknown person. So she she said she sold 1,000 copies within her first 2 weeks, which is pretty darn admirable, pretty darn amazing. She hit all sorts of categories in number one, stayed there for quite a while, a month or more, which is also really amazing because you kind of get that initial rush where you're telling all your friends and family and they're going to go buy it and leave a bunch of great reviews. And then a couple weeks, things die down and you're, seeing the numbers slip down to the bottom of the charts, not bottom, but, lower. But she worked full time, had babies. This was not her job. That is my point. This was her side project. This was something she did on the side. And she saw all sorts of success. So she decided that she was going to write this book. And here's a few things that she did. I want to share with you kind of her formula. She got clear on why she wanted to write it in the first place. She wanted to understand, her mission behind this. So she understood who she was reaching. She learned from people who had come before her. So she listened to podcasts on self-publishing, read the books, found the guidebooks and all sorts of things, right? Kind of like you're doing. You're searching for information on how to do this. She set a realistic budget. She was realistic about the fact that she was going to have to spend money. And her article, by the way, she listed out that she spent over half of that budget on editing, which validates my point to you that editing is well worth the money. And I'm not saying that just because I'm an editor. I'm saying that because I have seen books that have not been edited, and people will tell you about that. Side story, I have a friend who has a connection to a local author who's writing a series of true crime novels, and he just decided to pull his fourth or fifth novel and self-publish it. Well, the self-publisher screwed something up and there was a bunch of typos. My friend is telling me, and I've been waiting for this book because I enjoyed the first 3 or 4 of them. And she's like, yeah, it was good, but it was so hard to read because of the typos, because of the grammar issues. And now I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to read that. So it matters, right? It matters. People will tell you these things. They will talk about the typos that distracted them. So anyway, I was digressing there. Little side note. But she took, back to Natalie, she took project management over it, right? This isn't just writing and getting into that zone. She managed this thing like it was a project. She set deadlines. She set a budget. And then she grew her platform. Okay, remember we talked about this. So here's what she did. She had a website years ago for something, and she had 50 followers, or subscribers. And so she revamped her website. She actually lost them all. But then she started hustling, and she gave away a free download. It was a small little guidebook, and got 1,000 subscribers. But by the time she launched her book, she even got a few thousand followers on social media. So she hustled. She developed a launch plan. She decided that this meant something to her, and she was going to put some work into it. And I think she said she started this about 9 months, this kind of took 9 months to build up her email list. So while she was writing and while she was getting ready to get it published and all of that. So it kind of goes back to what I'm saying, you want to start thinking about this now when you're writing. And it's never too late, of course, but to build it up to a successful day one launch, you definitely want to start thinking about it early. So she sold 1,000 books within 2 weeks, and she's a self-published memoirist. Why was she successful? Because she had a plan, and she got out there and she talked to people and connected with people. I think that's what it really boils down to. She learned what she could from people who were successful. She made a plan that fit herself, her life, her budget, her time commitment. And she went out and she talked to people and made connections and got people subscribing to her website because she gave them something of value. Okay? So a couple other names. And by the way, I want you to probably pick up a pattern here. I did some research on this. These are not names that I knew off the top of my head. That's the entire point. No one's going to know your name off the top of their head. You're not Cheryl Strayed, okay? You're not. You're not Glennon Doyle, are you? Is Glennon in my group? I'm not either, okay? We're in the same boat here, ladies. No one's going to know our name until we get in front of them, until we are like, hey, I'm Danielle. Nice to meet you. I got a story. I wrote this pretty awesome story, and I think you'd like it. Why don't you come hang out with me? We're going to talk about some things, and then check out my story, by the way. So these are not names you may recognize at all. Maybe you will because you've read one of these books, and some of them have been around for a while. They're not extremely recent, all of them, but here's one I thought was really cool. Captain Bill Collier wrote 2 memoirs about his time as a pilot and has sold thousands of books. And he talks about how he's like constantly giving away these bookmarks. He has them everywhere. Everywhere he goes, he's like got his bookmarks. He talks about his books. For him, it kind of became like a big thing. But he still put the work in, right? You got to put the work in to see the results. He sold thousands of books. And, the data is hard to compare, but would he have sold more traditionally publishing? Maybe not, because with that mindset of traditional publisher backing you up, would you be out there hustling as hard? Question mark. That's for you to decide. Okay, Mary Ann Kirkby wrote a memoir, I Am Hooterite. I think I'm probably saying that wrong. You guys can correct me. But she actually self-published because she was rejected by a publisher. And she struggled getting an agent. And she was like, I guess I'll self-publish. But she really did not want to. And she talks about how she was so thankful that she did not give up after that rejection, and that she did consider self-publishing as a real, viable option for her in her book, because she was really successful as well. This wasn't something that, ended up selling millions of copies, but maybe it wouldn't have with a traditional publisher either. And instead of shelving her book and never publishing it, she found something that worked for her. Judy Mandel wrote a book called Replacement Child. And this is really cool. This one I wanted to share with you because she was so successful at self-publishing. She actually used her data, like her numbers, her sales numbers, to get a traditional deal. That's not very often you hear about that. That's something that's pretty uncommon. So it's possible, right? Clearly possible. And I'm not saying it's impossible for anyone in particular. There's no reason why it shouldn't be possible for everyone. But what she did was she just got out there and made this her full-time job, made this big thing. She put the effort into it, and it resulted in results, right? It resulted in sales. And she was able to take that to the negotiating table and say, look, hey, my book's been pretty successful. You want to take a shot at it? And so that just sort of, snowballed into more sales and more this and more that. And, when the traditional publishers get involved, they get it distributed wider. And so she saw that as the ladder to success. So technically, her self-publishing success brought her to the next level. But she could have stopped at self-publishing and still been really successful by anyone's account. So these are just 4 small tales of successful self-published memoirists. And I want you to know that it's possible. Will you get famous? Probably not. We're going to be realistic here. Real talk. Okay? Will you sell 1 million copies? Probably not. I don't know that many self-publishing books ever sell that many copies. I should look that one up too. But really, okay? How do you define success? If you are defining success as my book is my best work, absolutely my best work. I'm so proud of this book. My book is out there. I've literally clicked the publish button. My book has been sold to at least one person, or I've gotten at least one positive review from someone I don't know that said my book helped them with something, changed something about them, gave them something. Fill in the blank with what you think might be relevant. Entertainment, hope, love, saved their life. I mean, There are so many things to gain from this. If you're in it for the money, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be what makes you rich, okay? This is not a get rich game. You go the self-publishing route as a memoirist. You set off on this journey. One day you were like, I'm writing my book. Not because you wanted to be rich. I guarantee you. If you're sitting around listening to me, you're not trying to get rich, because you've never heard me preach that, have you? I've never told you this is what you're going to do. But that doesn't mean you're not going to make money. And hopefully you make enough money to pay yourself back for all the costs, right? If you're a self-publisher, that's what happens. And then you make more money. And that money helps you put into your mission, your purpose. Like if you want to help more people with a certain thing, maybe you start speaking and you build a business out of this, whatever. Or you don't and you stop. And this helps finance your retirement. Or it doesn't. However you define success is perfect, okay? But I want you to think about, what does that look like for you? What does success look like for you? And I want you to know that no matter how you define success, someone's done it. It's doable. It's gonna be possible for you too. So there may be kind of naysayers out there. Self-publishing has a much better reputation now than it ever has. And actually, the majority of books are self-published. It's finally shifting to where the minority of books are traditionally published now. So hopefully this will become like a thing of the past, this kind of gray cloud that follows self-publishing around that tells you you didn't do good enough, or you weren't a good enough writer or successful enough, or you didn't get that deal, so your book is crap. Like none of that exists anymore. And hopefully that will be a thing of the past where we don't even remember that was a thing, right? But the point is, whatever you define success as is possible for you. There's people that have done it before. There's people who are always going to tell you that it's not possible, but I believe in you, and I think the proof is in the pudding. Shall we call up Captain Bill Collier and ask him? Wouldn't that be fun? Okay, so I hope that answers this question. If you ever have any doubts, I want you to come back and watch this goofy little video of mine again. Or just Google, right? Just go Google. There's tons of people talking about their self-publishing success. I want you to specifically focus on memoirists, because this particular genre comes with its own perks and, kind of ups and downs, right? There's good things about it, and there's not so fun things about it. One of those being that it's a very hard traditional market to break into. So self-publishing, still an option, and still can hit your goal of success, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm here with you, and we'll party, okay? So make sure to tell us when your book is published, and we will all go run out and buy one and make a review, and you're going to be so amazing. Okay, come back for my next video. We'll talk about more fun things.